are so many lawmakers out there who are afraid of video games simply because they don't understand them. They don't know why people enjoy them so much. They try to blame real-world violence on games without any evidence to back it up, yet on the contrary, there's been many studies done by legitimate sources that have said there is no link whatsoever there, yet here we are dealing with this situation just like this one, which is absolutely laughable. I truly can't believe that we're reading about a situation where a lawmaker wants to ban violent video games completely, outright, because he thinks that they might make people commit crimes. So this is a Polygon article. Illinois rep wants to ban all violent video games to curb violence. So an Illinois legislator is looking to ban the sale of all violent video games in the state, according to amendments that would adjust a 2012 law which currently keeps retailers from selling certain violent video games to minors. The documents were filed on Friday by Representative Marcus Evans Jr. in response to an increase in carjackings and violent crime in Chicago. House Bill 3531 would prevent the sale of all violent video games in the state. Now, just listen to what is defined in the bill as a violent video game. So as defined in the bill, a violent video game is described as one that allows a user or player to control a character within the video game that is encouraged to perpetuate human-on-human violence in which the player kills or otherwise causes serious physical or psychological harm to another human or an animal. So apparently now Minecraft is a bad game. We need to ban Minecraft because it is inappropriate. Minecraft, you can kill villagers, witches, you can hurt animals, you can eat animals. I mean, PETA hates Minecraft. Why doesn't everyone else hate Minecraft? It is a very toxic, violent video game. I can't help but laugh at these situations where we hear things like violent video games being described as this because so many different things could fall under these guidelines, and that's the problem. This is extremely vague for a description of a violent, in quotes, video game. It says elsewhere in the amendments, legislators look to change the definition of serious physical harm to include carjacking, among other things. Rates of carjacking have increased across Chicago, with 218 incidents reported to police in January, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, and the bill would prohibit the sale of some of these games that promote the activities that we're all suffering from in our own communities. So I wanted to head on over to this article by AboveTheLaw.com. Should minors have a constitutional right to realistically violent but fun video games? And I only want to really read two specific paragraphs here. Legislators, either through their own initiative or due to public pressure, may one day propose legislation to control or even ban the sale of certain video games, particularly to children. But doesn't this violate free speech principles? Let's review a landmark Supreme Court case on this issue and determine whether video games can be regulated. I think this next paragraph is extremely important for the lawmakers who don't know about this case that say that they want to ban video games. In 2011, the Supreme Court decided Brown versus Entertainment Merchants Association, which held that violent video games were protected speech under the First Amendment. There, the court invalidated a California law banning the sale of violent video games to anyone under the age of 18. The majority found that violent video games are no different than the violence depicted in, of course, protected books and movies. The court noted while video games are interactive, some books also allow interaction where readers can choose their own adventure by turning to a certain page depending on their decision. I mean, these are extremely basic points to make. These are why video games aren't banned in the United States, because they fall under the First Amendment. This is why books don't get banned. This is why movies don't get banned, because of the First Amendment. How do these lawmakers not know that this case happened? If they're trying to get people to rally behind them to ban video games, maybe they should know the history of banning video games. It says the majority was not convinced by the studies provided by the state of California, showing a connection between exposure to violent video games and harmful effects on children. They found that the research is based on correlation without causation, and the studies suffer from admitted flaws in methodology. And I want to bring up this other article from the LA Times. No, there is still no link between video games and violence. So, do video games trigger violent behavior? Scientific studies have found no link. I think this is extremely important to point out because this theory has been around for so many years. People ask the question all the time, do video games make you violent in real life? And research shows not. So it says there are no studies that show a link between violence and video games, said Benjamin Burrows, a professor of emerging media at the University of Nevada. Certainly, there is no linkage to gun violence. He said that some studies show a short-term increase in aggressive thoughts and feelings after playing a video game, but nothing that rises to the level of violence. In 2006, a small study by Indiana University researchers found that teenagers who played violent video games showed higher levels of emotional arousal, but less activity in the parts of the brain associated with the ability to plan, control, and direct thoughts and behavior. And Patrick Markey, a psychological professor at the Villanova University, who focuses on video games, found his research that men who commit severe acts of violence actually play violent video games less than the average male. About 20% were interested in violent video games, compared with 70% of the general population, he explained in his 2017 book, Moral Combat: Why the War on Violent Video Games is Wrong. The point of the ESRB and PEGI and all of those rating boards is for this very reason, to judge whether or not a product is appropriate for specific age groups. And if they're properly rated, then people in those age groups shouldn't be restricted from playing them. And to restrict anyone, even adults, from buying these video games is absolutely ridiculous. As an adult, no one should be able to tell me if I can or can't play a video game or even watch a movie or listen to a specific type of music. I just can't believe that we're seeing this happen yet again in 2021, and I'm sure it's not going to stop. This isn't the last time we're ever going to see a ridiculous claim like this, but they're protected. Video games are protected entertainment, and there is a reason why this case in 2011 wasn't successful. But let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.